you'll have your chance to speak tonight at the call to the public. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and.
I have a mint.
Microphone.
Yep.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:02. Do apologize for the delay. That clock's wrong. All right, we're going to have invocation by Commissioner Irving and Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Frank. Please stand.
Our hands. Dear Father, thank you again for the day, and thank you for our continued blessings that you tend to bless upon us and our community. We just be with us tonight as we go about our deliberations. Just let us go into it with open minds and open hearts. We ask all this in your wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Oh, there it is. Way over there on the laptop.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner LaFalle? Commissioner Yocum?
Here.
Vice Chair Sharp? Chair Huggins?
Here.
Commissioner Irving?
Here.
Commissioner Frank?
Here.
Commissioner Robertson? Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All righty, call to the public. I do have some speaker cards for different agenda items. If there is any other call to the public, please step forward. This would be on items not on the agenda or for the public hearings. Seeing no one, we'll move on. We do need to take the minutes off the agenda. We will roll those into the next meeting. And so let's move on. 5.1, GPA 21-03, public hearing, a request by Iplan Consulting on behalf of W Holdings to amend the general plan use map for approximately 995 plus or minus acres from undesignated land to master plan communities MPC, generally located at the northwest corner of Anderson Road and Miller Road. Discussion only. And this is discussion only, guys. We are not making a decision on this tonight.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Rudy Lopez, Development Services Director. Before you open up the public hearing, I'd like to go ahead and present a quick presentation on this. Next slide. As mentioned, this request by Iplan Consulting on behalf of W Holdings requests to amend the general plan future land use by designating approximately 995 acres of land to be included in the city's general planning area and designated to master plan community. The site is generally located at the northeast corner. I think there's a correction, a typo on my agenda item. I said the northwest. Correction on that's northeast corner, generally on Anderson Road and Miller Road within the unincorporated limits of Pinal County. Next slide.
You have the wrong. That doesn't.
Oh, sorry. Apologize. Sorry. Wrong presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that was 5. That was.
That was 2. Yeah, we're doing 5.1.
Correct. 5.1.
It should be the first one on the agenda.
There you go.
There
Sorry,
we go.
There it is.
Let's go to the next slide. This request constitutes a major general plan amendment as any request over 40 acres from undesignated land in use to master plan community is considered a major general plan amendment per the city's general plan administration section. Next slide. As it relates to the development process, this project is a step one of generally a 5-step process for zoning and permitting entitlement. So as you can see, after the general plan, this current property is not in the city limits currently today. If the applicant pursues a future request of the city, the property has to be requested to be annexed into the city. And after annexation is what is granted or approved. After that's proper rezoning, pre-platting, final platting, where that's where they plat the subdivisions before they can go vertical steps. So there's still early in the design or early in the process before any entitlements for actual going vertical is considered. Next slide. Site acreage is 995 acres. The parcel includes over 15 individual tax parcels. There is no address at this point. The existing zoning, this property has already been rezoned under Pinell County in 2005 as planners, as a PZPD, a PAD case, case number 12, 2005. So once again, it has been rezoned by the county in 2005, and the general plan land use currently is undesignated. The proposed general plan with applicants requesting is a master plan community. Next slide. So a quick background of what is a general plan. The general plan is an expression of the preferences of residents and property owners, as is a voter-approved general plan of the city every 10 years. A statement of city policy designated to achieve the citizens' vision and a framework for future decision-making means of enhancing quality of life for residents. This general plan is not a tool to promote special interests, not a rigid document. It is somewhat adaptable in nature is what it means. It's general. It is not a detailed policy. It is not ordinance or specific city code related, and is not a capital improvement plan for future projects, but it's a guiding tool for city leadership, residents, and staff. It is not zoning at this time. It's not a rezoning itself. And in this case, it's not an act of platting or even proposed annexation. Next slide. The location, as mentioned, is at the northeast corner of Anderson Road and Miller Road, outside the city limits currently, which is indicated by that yellow star on the map. Next slide. This is the subject site a little close up, which again is about 995 acres of land that is being requested to be added to the city's plan area and designated as a master plan community. When I say it's added into the plan area, currently this portion of land is not within the city's plan area. It once was part of the Casa Grande's plan area, but most recently as part of Casa Grande's amendment process, I believe about a year ago or so, they went ahead and amended their boundaries to be not included in their plan area. So this will be the applicants requesting for this amendment to be included in the city's plan area. Next slide. So about half of the PAD, which again has been already rezoned by Pinell County, has zoning entitlement by the yellow star, has a zoning entitlement from the county, which lies within the city's plan area today, designated as the city's master plan community. And the other side of the half, or generally the other half, is undesignated land use at this time with the Casa Grande's recent amendment to their general plan. On the land use analysis from the initial analysis of this process, keeping it consistent as master plan community with the existing land use entitlement that the county has already given of a PAD, the entitled MPC is the most compatible land use for this area. Next slide. And this is just what the applicants present to us, so also further illustrate the existing city's general plan of the color coded and the red boundaries of the current project itself of Santa Cruz Ranch, showing that the western half is already designated as a master plan community in the city, while the eastern half is not included in the Casa Grande's plan area, but the request is to amend the general plan to now include this as the most compatible land use that we see fit as part of it, which is a master plan community. Next slide. So master plan community is a designation that we have in the city. It's for large scale, 160 acres or more. It's a development that has a true variety of residential products with lot variations, lot standards, or lot diversity, housing diversity. It's supported by commercial and employment land use to meet daily needs of residents. So it's not all single family residential. It's all intended to be its own holistic type of neighborhood with different various land uses. And it also includes adequate open space, schools, churches, and neighborhood facilities. Further, this type of development will be expected to provide off-site infrastructure as it goes through this entitlement process, such as the necessary off-site development impacts, including roadways, drainage, improvements, and wet and dry utilities. All of that have to be addressed as part of the process when it comes into, if and when this property comes into the city limits. Next slide. The capital cost, the criteria also when it comes to major amendments is to look at the burden of the city as part of this amendment into the city, whether it's considered a major amendment. The context of the site expansion of infrastructure warrants capital improvements to the site, such as half and full street improvements to Anderson Road, Miller Road, alignment, and Santa Rosa Avenue, just to name a few. So as part of the process, we do constitute this as a major amendment just because of lack of infrastructure in that area. As part of that amendment, it will be required as part of, be stipulated to continue to work with the city if and when this site develops into the city's limits. And as mentioned, as part of the next development stage, rezoning, plating, or preliminary traffic report announced to be conditioned for review and approval at a later stage. Next slide. As required by the general plan, the following goals and objectives are consideration of the proposed request: land use, circulation, parks, recreation, open space, growth areas, parks, recreation, that's redundant. In your actual staff reports, Exhibit A, the applicant has provided reasons for how these areas have been met by the from the applicant side. Next slide. This amendment is consistent with the general plan as the land use proposed is the most compatible land use for the area and the entitled zoning approved per the county. The balance of land uses with a master plan community designation is a desire for this by the city and consistent with the general plan to increase the inventory of land within the zoning district. And the amendment will continue to promote the growth of the city in an orderly manner and protect the public health, safety, and comfort and welfare. And next slide. At this point, this is only for discussion. There is no action tonight as required for any state statute for a general plan amendment. We are required to host 2 separate public hearings at 2 separate locations within the city limits. At your next P&Z commissioners, you'll be hearing this for action. With Madam Chair, Commissioners, the applicant is here to also add any more information. Jason, if you want to come up with any additional beyond what I mentioned.
Thank you, Rudy. Commissioners, neighbors, and city staff. Jason Sang, Iplan Consulting. I believe many of you met Greg Davis at the neighborhood meeting. He sends his regrets he couldn't be here tonight, but I would like to just add that the notices that went out to the neighbors included the full 1,886 acres shown in their exhibits because the project is considered a development kind of unit. However, what you're seeing tonight is that half of the property is still to be annexed into the city and not currently designated, but the property that's directly adjacent to your neighborhood, which is designated master plan community as well, is already designated master plan community, but we wanted to show the project in its entirety. So that's why you're seeing 2 different numbers, 1,886 acres in your letters and 995 on the screen, because it's 995 new acres that would be brought into the city. So I just wanted to clear that up in case anybody was wondering the big discrepancy in acreage. It really was just to clarify that. I'd be happy to answer any questions for the commission. Again, just reiterating, the project is already zoned for the type of development that's being sought for land use tonight. And within Pinal County, the intention was to bring it into the city and bring the development into City of Maricopa standards rather than Pinal County standards when it's developed in the future, rather than leave it in Pinal County with Pinal County zoning for the types of lots you would expect in master plan community. So just clear that up.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, at this time, you can open up the public hearing for any comments.
All right. So let's go ahead and open it up. I do have some speaker cards. I will call them one at a time. And if we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes, please, because I do have a lot of them and we want to make this quick, but we do want you to be heard. So I'm going to call the first one, and I can't read the last name, is Dave. I want to say Kingensmith. If you can just state your name and address for the records, please.
Name's Dave Klingensmith. I live at 34560 West Jobanka Road in Santa Cruz. Santa Rosa Ranches. And I'm not for this particular zoning change, mainly because of water, okay? And I got some stats here from the EPA and AWWA. I've been in the water business for 38 years and retired now, but for average in hot zones, it's 157 gallons per person per day. Average home has 3 people. You got 6,000 homes that are slated for this development. You're talking, in a year, 171,000 gallons per person, per household per year. And that's going to turn into, it's 1,34,490 gallons per year. 3,164 acre feet of water that's going to be used. Now, I know Maricopa doesn't have any surface water. They're all using groundwater. I know that those wells on those properties are being rehabbed, probably so they can get better yield. The farms use a lot of water, yes, but they were taking a lot of cap water too. So the CAP water was supplemented. CAP water is cheaper than running the wells. So they were taking the cap water more readily. Cities always preached, Tempe was no different, to conserve water. They want low flow shower heads and low flow toilets and that kind of stuff. 6,000 homes, that's 12,000 shower heads and 12,000 toilets. They're going to be going. Then wells are going to be going like crazy. The other thing is, most of the people in our place have our own wells. Okay, my well I use for my house, and I have city water too, but it's secondary water because it's intermittent. It's here or there sometimes. I'm worried about the contamination of our wells due to the yield of water that they're going to be using. The water table is going to drop, and it's going to actually affect our wells. As our wells, get lower and lower, the contaminants that are on the top of the surface of the water table are going to eventually come to our well. And it could even be to the point like up in Prescott where they don't have any water. It's all been consumed by the cities. Okay, that's the other thing. The other thing too is the wildlife. I'm not a tree hugger by any means, trust me, but we have burrowing owls. They're federally and state protected by ARS Title 17 and the Migratory Bird Act for the same ones. And I'm just using owls for existence. There's probably other protected animals there, but they're there. So are the development going to go in there? Are they going to do a study? Are they going to rehome those animals? I mean, apparently they have to, according to state. But I just kind of, we all live on 3.5 acre lots. We live in harmony with the wildlife. We have the wildlife that live on our property. We have burrowing owls living next door, and we work around them. We let them live. So I really don't think that the property should be cut up into 10 or 18 homes per acre or whatever they plan on doing for that. It needs to be zoned for like us, similar to us, RS, it's a rural subdivision. We are out in the country. Most of us moved out here to be out in the country. And, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next one is Kristin Cardone.
Thank you. I'll try to keep this brief. I know that we were given 5 minutes, and I know we were trying to get to everyone. In the flyer, it said 5, so I'm going to try. It said, Planning and Zoning Commission, I do want to express my sincere concerns for this development, the Santa Cruz Ranch development. There are many concerns that the development of this size will bring to the neighborhood that we currently live in. Water usage, like he said, is the biggest concern that we are struggling with. There are so many homes that will be brought, and like he said, the water table is going to get depleted. The roads is also going to be a very, very big concern, as this will be adding a ginormous amount of people to this area, which we currently do not have this amount of people. This will cause Cascaran Highway to be even busier than it already is. Our way of life is different than most. Our animals scent, flies, and things that we bring with our animals often cause complaints of the general public, not usually of the people who live in the current area. I can't count the number of times that I have had complaints from people who live in the city of Maricopa about the smell, and they live here and they chose to live here. So it's going to be a problem even where we live. The quality of life of the current residents. We moved to this area to be away from the city. We enjoy the blessings of country life, and we do not want to raise our children in this type of environment, especially being brought to our front doors. I do not agree that the city needs to gain more land into the city. I have lived in the city of Maricopa since I was 6, and then up until I moved away to go to college, and then returned to Stanfield because I saw the city had continued to grow, and I did not want to raise my children in the city that has grown to a certain limit of extreme. And so there's plenty of land in the city which is already being developed, and I do not believe that this is going to be needed to be more city that is being added in. It's kind of growing to almost an uncontrollable level. And this commuter town that we live in causes people to have to commute out onto a road that is very unsafe already. I know things are in the works to make that better, but I don't see it happening right away. And this is going to cause even more people to be on that road each day. It dreads me when my husband has to take that road. We try to find other routes. What population is causing the city to grow to a certain point to bring businesses? I recently heard from the mayor that if the city population would grow to a certain point, then certain businesses would come here, and then we would not have to continue being a commuter town. What population does that require? What businesses have said that they will come if we get to that population? Have they agreed to this? I can't foresee that we have a plan unless we're sure that those businesses are actually coming based on our population increasing. And then we're not far behind population of Casa Grande, yet Casa Grande has so much more employment for their area residents. So it's hard to see that the population increasing is the reasoning that we're going to get these businesses here. Also, I know that the zoning request has already been addressed. I was unaware that the master plan community in the eastern side had already been planned out. So the rest of my questions there are irrelevant there. So I'm just very concerned about the area, and I'm very concerned about our way of life being affected. Thank you.
All right, next one, Tina Dugan.
Chair Huggins, fellow commissioners, thank you for hearing us this evening. I just want to touch on a couple of things. First of all, was kind of touched on previously. So when you have a neighborhood meeting for this kind of a thing, it would be helpful for them to say that we're only talking about the east side of Anderson Road. It was presented to everyone that's here as being the entire thing was under scrutiny this evening, under consideration. As someone who sits on PRL, I do know I saw the original plan come through, and I know that this is being done because Pinal County would not allow them to develop that other site if it did not become part of this due to the current rules that they have on non-platted subdivisions. I kind of watch that stuff. And so therefore, I think if you have a neighborhood meeting, you shouldn't mislead the people that are there to think it's about the whole project when the other project's already been in effect. And that's what was done to these folks. My concerns, obviously, the traffic analysis. You folks know how I am about traffic. They told us at that meeting they're going to make Anderson Road 6 lanes. And then you're going to go back down to 2. I have a little bit of an agriculture stake in it, and I also own a business in Stanfield. So all of this is important to me, even though I don't live where these folks are that are directly on this. The meeting summary is something else I kind of wanted to talk about. It's interesting that the questions that are on what you were given, they all seem to say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. We don't want this in our neighborhood. These folks presented great questions, such as they were told that the floodplain is going to be adjusted for this. So whenever you play with the floodplain, and I know Commissioner Frank knows this very well, you affect everything around it. So what happens to these folks' area when they do the floodplain for this? Also, they asked about the airport. The person presenting the neighborhood meeting had no idea there was an airport close to this. There indeed is. Octane Air Park's right there, right across the street. I know the east-west corridor is coming, so that'll handle some of the north, but we got a railroad track. I know something about railroad tracks and overpasses. I've dealt with that just once or twice in my life. Let's see. The other thing that's really important to me on this, the city limits kind of go into it, not all the way, but when you're talking about people living on a 3.5 acre parcel, and it says right in the paperwork that I read, 3 to 10 units per acre. That's a lot. As this comes up before, because I'm fairly sure that you'll go ahead and make the change eventually. This is simply for it to become a pad. I get that. But I really hope you'll consider all of these folks and all of us down there who are going to have to deal with a 6-lane road coming down to 2, a 4-lane road going down to 2, that right now it's just dirt. My son drives a chopper over it quite often. I just think you need to remember that when you're going to put something like this next to a rural community, you need to think about the residents that have been there for a long time and make sure the outskirts of this planned area development merge their way into that and not have an apartment complex or 10 units on an acre right next to them. Thank you, guys.
Kenneth Cardone.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Carton. I live at 34745 West Teal Road, Stanfield, Arizona 85172. Same address that Kristin Cardone, who presented earlier, lives at. Your subdivision comes right up to my house. Like, I'm gonna see and look at a flipping wall. Okay, but you're going to be bringing in 6,000 homes. Okay, Rancho, and I think it's the lakes on the other side are 5,000. So you're telling me you're going to make one subdivision bigger than 2 with 1,000 more? And just something to think about. How much crime does Rancho and the lakes have? And then you're going to be bringing that our way. We're rural. I can literally leave my door and garage open when I go to bed with no fear that anything's going to happen. Not that I do, but I could, because I trust my neighbors. I trust my community. With a subdivision of 6,000 homes coming my way, there'd be no way that I could feel safe or secure in that aspect. And again, it was mentioned traffic. I'm sorry. I drive to Phoenix every day. True, my choice. This is true. But now I'm going to have to fight at least 12,000 other vehicles, because most homes have a mom or a husband and wife who each drive their own cars. 6,000 times 2 is 12,000 vehicles. You're going to be bringing 12,000 vehicles into a rural subdivision on a 6-lane highway down and then try to get them all to merge into 2 lanes? One going each way. These are just instances that need to be thought about. These are questions and concerns that we all have. And then Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, it's already, as mentioned earlier, busy enough. We don't need 12,000 more cars going on that road, because the only way in and out of this community is going to be Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, where there's already enough accidents, or the 87 all the way over in Stanfield. And nobody's going to drive all the way to Stanfield to go all the way around. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Shields.
Good evening. I'm Jackie Shields, and I'm part of Santa Rosa Ranchos and have been for, 15 years. I'm also a 30-year realtor, and so I appreciate everything, well, everybody's saying, but Tina addressed a lot of this. I'm here today, again, to somewhat reiterate what they're already stating, but I have a few questions and then just some things that I'd ask you guys to kind of ask yourselves when you're making these decisions. My first question is, and maybe you can help me, sir, with that. I am still trying to just figure this out. So the portion that you are wanting to add, my understanding was the portion that they're wanting to bring on to the already master plan community that I was aware of when I moved into Santa Rosa Ranchos in 2004, okay? I understood that subsided due to flood zone. Okay, they could not get that through. They couldn't make it happen. I understand it was already pre-plotted and we were all told about it. I get that, but they couldn't get it to go through because of flood zone. Now there's another development in this, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I really want to make sure I'm getting this right and that I'm giving it out correctly too. So that other subdivision has now approached this other families, 5 different families, right, of the original master plan community, and said, well, we wanted to put this one in for 800 and some odd acres or whatever it was. We want to add this to yours because they had the water. They have the flood zone rights and these guys have the water. From what I understand, Pinal County had passed something that stated that you couldn't put in another subdivision unless you had a 100-year water supply. Okay, that's what I understood through Pinal County. So my question out here is, sir, can you help me understand, is this correct? Did this farmer that came and wanted to sell his property and developers wanted to come in and build these 800 or 900 acres, is this how this community came together, or am I misunderstanding something? Because it sounds like it's a little different now. Am I understanding all of that correctly? This guy needed this guy. One of them had the flood zones, the clear way for flood zones, and the other one had the water rights from Pinal County. Is that correct?
You can't address.
I can't ask?
No,
Okay, well then maybe I can ask you guys to ask
we
them.
can't answer it.
Yeah, we can't.
Okay, so
We're the
maybe
state
these are some
comments back.
questions. Maybe these are just, these are just some questions
I'm
sorry.
hang on.
Hold
We
on,
will
let them
take,
talk. Okay, I'm
we
sorry.
will take this back to staff and get those answers.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. So if I can ask you these questions, because
Right.
there might be some miscommunication and misinformation. And so that's one of our concerns. The reason why you're hearing you're hearing a lot of concern with water. I mean, I know that's an overall, water is an issue in Arizona. However, it's an extreme issue in our community because we are part of City of Casa Grande water. We are not global water. We have great water service up until a couple years ago when Arizona Water Company lost their well, their groundwater, gone, depleted. Santa Rosa Ranchos won. And if there's anybody from that development here, please correct me on this if I'm wrong in stating this, but I believe it was about 2 years ago, Arizona Water went to City of Casa Grande because our water, the aquifer, when they dug my private well, okay, on my property when I moved in 2004, when they put my well in, they hit water, groundwater. It's 75 feet in Arizona. That's where they hit it right off the bat. I had an awesome aquifer. My bottom pump just went out literally 2 weeks ago. They had to take my well another 75 feet deeper. So that's my own personal experience, okay, with the water. Then you come to the rest of how it's affecting us. When they hooked up Santa Rosa 1 and we were not approached, we were not notified. I guess we don't have to be. It's a city, right? Arizona Water Company talked to City of Casa Grande. But what we know is we're standing in our shower and we run out of water now. That's what we know. I go to water my horses in the morning, or, other people, I should say, but thank goodness I have a well, I have backup. But there are other people in our neighborhood that don't have wells. So they go use their city water to water their animals, and they can't. They can't. You can't brush your teeth unless you get a Aquafina out. You know what I'm saying? And it has happened not once, not twice. I'm talking 2 to 3 times per month in the past couple years. It's really been bad for us. So you're going to keep hearing that from us, and we don't want to leave part of the, and this may not be the best, I may not be making friends stating this, but the point being is City of Casa Grande, it is city water. As a realtor and for financial investment, that's why I bought there. That's one of the reasons why I bought in Santa Rosa Ranchos. I have city water. I'm a native Arizonan, born and raised here. Where I used to live in Mesa, growing up in Mesa, they ran the CAP canal. Literally, so it seems like it was at that front door. So water is the issue, big issue. All the other stuff, I get. Development's going to happen. I just ask that if you guys are going to do this, leave our city water alone. Please, we want to stay on City of Casa Grande. We don't want to be part of Global Water, who is in bankruptcy from what I understand. I don't even know how they're going to afford to put this in, number one. So please ask Global, how are they going to do this exactly? And how is that going to affect our city water? You know, everybody wants to say annexation, this and that. We just want to stay with our City of Casa Grande water, and we want to stay Stanfield, and and we want it done right. You're going to bring in a development, you bring in your roads. You guys said they're talking about it here. I want to see the flood zone. I want to see the flood zone maps. I want to see what they plan to do, because here's another thing that has happened in our community. And again, I've experienced this because of being a realtor in the neighborhood, okay? We had other clients when the recession hit, just before the recession hit. I have a little retiree that lived on Teal Road, right where the Cardons live, okay? They changed the flood zone up here in Northwest Maricopa to help get houses out of a flood zone, okay? Just before the recession. Guess what? It runs downhill, even though that's an uphill one. The point being is, my little 80-year-old lady that lived in her perfect little home couldn't afford her house anymore because she got put in the flood zone. She got put in the flood zone at Santa Rosa with the Santa Rosa Cruz water. That's how far back it affected it, okay? And she had to sell her home because she couldn't afford flood insurance. $1,200 a month they wanted for that. $1,200 a month on a fixed income, okay? So yes, water is a huge issue. I don't care if it has to do with us drinking it or with flooding. Infrastructure needs to be there, period. Ask them for their maps. Get that stuff ahead of time. I don't know the protocol. I just ask that you consider this, because and then traffic. We all know how bad 347 is as far as deaths and injuries and backup. I can tell you this about Maricopa Casa Grande. It's the same way. I mean, my daughter attended, we're Casa Grande School District. I don't even know if you guys know that. We're Casa Grande School District, right? Even though we're, Pinal County and Stanfield, Arizona, the buses pick up in our community. But when my daughter started driving, I didn't want her on that road. At 16 years old, and her very first year, there was a young man, and well, actually 3 of them. There was a rollover accident. The crosses are still out there. It highly affected it. And that road's just dangerous already on its own. And I know, again, I understand growth and development, and I get that. I just ask that you ask them all the right questions to protect us. And I think that's what you're here for. Like, that's what you guys got into this for, is to help us. The other thing I thought is, I'm not just going to come up here and complain to you, and I promise I'm almost done.
Man, we got to move on.
Jabberjaws Jackie, but I have one more thing. I ask you to think about Wickenburg, Arizona. Wickenburg, Arizona, the reason why I'm saying this is I realize there's so much money, right, that could be had in this 12, what is it, 6,000 people or whatever it is, how many people are going to be building in this area. But what I would ask you to do is look at what Wickenburg did. They embraced, you guys, they embraced the cowboy lifestyle. They embraced it. That's open in the East Valley now. It is now known, Wickenburg has now stolen the cowboy capital of the USA from Stephenville, Texas. Yes, ma'am. Yes, way.
Ma'am,
Their
time's up.
population,
Okay, ma'am, I'm
I get
sorry.
it, but their population doubled.
Right.
And they stayed true to their rural routes. And that's all I ask you to do.
We will definitely take that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bruce, I can't see your last name. Go ahead.
Oh, it's Bruce James.
James?
Yeah, Jaynes.
Just state your
Well-
address and your name, please.
Okay, well, folks.
If you could state your name and address, please.
Excuse me?
Your name and address,
Okay.
please.
My name's Bruce James. I have 1368 West Brower Lane is my property out in Hidden Valley. I was here when we first had the problem of land jumping, I call it. I guess that's what you call it. But my big question is, I have to ask this planning and zoning and the individual was up here. Tell me what you consider is going to work better with you having global. You're going to have ED3 for electric. You're going to have, I guess, the Unified School District, Maricopa is going to be involved in it. What does the city of Maricopa offer these people that we don't see right now? That's my big question. Is you're wanting to just grab one little area and you don't care about anybody else. And that's one of the things I think you're missing, because that's why these people are here. They're talking about water. They're talking about lifestyle. We got annexed, or you tried to annex us till we stopped it out there in Hidden Valley. And, you know, it didn't go over well. And I think that's what some of these people is. They don't want this stuff rammed into them. You need to be a little more, I guess, soft with it. And I'm still asking the question, what does Maricopa have to offer better than a county island? So nobody wants to answer.
I do
We
apologize. We
can't,
can't
so-
answer, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I can say is I've dealt with it, and I think it's a pretty bad move. It's kind of an undercut way to, I guess, slide yourself over so you can grab more property to build more houses. And I'm telling you right now, yeah, they're talking about water, but there's other things that are going to pop up also. So I hope everybody still keeps some fights. That's what you got to do with these guys. You got to fight them. Thank you.
That was the last. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Have you closed the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about that. So we'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Anybody else? Oh,
One question and one question only.
come on up to the podium. State your name and address, please.
I'm Nancy Rollins. I live actually in Hidden Valley, 5158 North Branding Iron Road. My question is, I do have a well. What's going to happen when you drain it? With 6,000 homes, 12,000 people coming into my area, what's going to happen to my water?
We can definitely have them investigate that for you. All right, anybody else?
Hey, Steve Walden. I live at 33860 West Granny Road in Stanfield. I've been there for 38 years. I raise horses. I raise cattle. I got pigs. I got everything out there. What is going to happen when all these houses come in? They're going to complain. They're going to complain. We have water. We have shortage on water. My water's gone out so many times. So many times it's gone out. We rely on the, what's that water place over by, across the railroad tracks over here? We get water from there. What are these people going to do? Are they going to get water out of the ground too? It don't work that way. I've been there for a long time. I like my quiet. I like the peace. I don't like the traffic. I've been there for 38 years. I love where I live. I moved there for a reason. I don't want the traffic. I don't want all this. How big are these lots going to be? You're bringing in 16,000 people? Is that what I'm hearing? I don't know what you guys are bringing in. It's not right, dude. It's not right. I don't care how many people it is. It's not right. I moved there for a reason. I like the quiet. I like the non-violence. We got so many great neighbors out there right now. We don't need to bring this stuff in.
All righty, anybody else? All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:46. Any questions, commissioners? Statements? Nothing? Yep, questions, okay.
So yeah, the transportation was brought up in the idea of the 6-lane road going down to 2. I just wondered if anybody has any depiction on the transportation plan out here. So I haven't seen what's planned there yet. That's one question.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, as part of this general plan amendment request, that has not been submitted as part of the entitlement process of this, they'll be responsible to provide a traffic impact analysis for review approval by an actual registered engineer of the state of Arizona. At this time, it is considered that they'll have to do some improvements or a lot of improvements to the area to justify the request. But at this time, it's still too early to determine that. But they are conditioned as part of this to be responsible for any impacts of roadway improvements, such as offsite improvements to the area.
Is this in the area that the east-west corridor is planned?
It's just somewhat shy a little bit south of it from the east-west corridor, because the east-west corridor is on the Maricopa Cascade Highway corridor area. So
Okay.
about a good 4 or 5 miles south.
Then my question was regarding the existing zoning. So right now it's zoned CR3, which is similar to what Rancho is currently zoned, right? Just to give a sense for what's possible.
Sure, Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes, the current zoning of Pinal County for this area today is a PAD CR3. What we have in Rancho Dorado is a very similar zoning, CR3 PAD, correct?
So the developer theoretically could build Rancho out there right now without any further change.
I think the only caveat to that is that the PAD, if this property were to come into the city, we do have enhanced PAD standards to have diversity of land uses, not just all single-family residential, but diverse of single-family residential, but also other type of housing opportunities, but also commercial and employment opportunities as well. So that way, Rancho Dorado is a little bit different because they all did single-family residential as one major land use and maybe just a small sliver of commercial. Under city standards, will have to be ways to have diversity of land uses to meet the impact of that.
Great. Yeah, that's good. So it wouldn't be so monolithic then. There's
Correct.
Opportunity for other things, commercials, et cetera.
If the project were to continue to stay in Pinal County region, I'm not sure what Pinal County standards are, but Pinal County may have not the same standards as ours, where their standards may be just one land use type of CR3 zoning versus the city is going to ask for a little diverse.
And it is way out there, just say in the boonies right now. So how are you going to handle fire? Because there's nothing near there. There's, way outside the 3-4 minute service area, that the fire department likes to see. So I imagine a fire station, substation, all that kind of stuff would be.
As part of the city requirements to the development process of this, we have a section in our code called I forgot, it's performance standards. There's actual performance standards of roadways, waterways, flooding improvements, fire protection. Those will be requirements of this development to meet minimum standards of the cities for fire protection. We won't allow any development to go out there for any protection, even flood protection as well.
Okay, yeah, so then that was my last question. It's like in the middle of the Santa Cruz River floodplain, which that gives me a lot of concern, and would have to see how that's going to.
Yeah, and commissioners, the applicant, as part of this project, if it continues to move forward with the city, if and when, there'll be a requirement of them to adhere and address any flood mitigation concerns along the development.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. That's all my comments, questions for right now.
Commissioner Irving.
Yeah, I have about 1,000 questions. I think, to me, it's a matter of process. I would want to make sure that every single question that was raised tonight, that we have an answer to for our next public hearing, because we are so far away from making a decision. I think without some of the responses, there's no way I could ever support it. But I think, again, the water issue, I'm saying with traffic issue, the whole issue of the impact on the surrounding area. Are we better off not having, I know we want to develop, but is that the right place? Are we changing the whole, there's so many questions. And I think, to me, the whole purpose of this is to hear them, and I wrote them down. So my questions are the answers to their questions. So, because we got one more public hearing, right?
Right.
And I just think it's great for the process, but I just want to make sure that when I come to the next one, there is a response to every issue they raise, because that's the purpose of a public hearing. So other than that, I'm not ready to ask questions till I hear the answers to those.
And then, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we can definitely relate all the questions. I wrote them as well, and we got them on video. We'll make sure the applicant addresses those questions at the next public hearing and action night.
Perfect.
Commissioner Yoakum.
Yeah, I also have 3 pages of issues that were brought up, and I have the issues brought up by each individual. And I find it very interesting, and there are a number of common threads that go through here. We have the traffic with the water, we have flood. I think the flood zone issue is going to have to get. I think the flood zone issue is going to have to get very heavy emphasis and special attention, because several people brought up the possibility that whatever we do to control the flood or the drainage might drain off onto their properties, and God forbid that happens. I don't want to see that happen. I really don't. So I think that we need strong emphasis on that point.
I'm just going to wrap everything up and kind of reiterate everything that our audience has said, as well as the other commissioners. When we get to see this, I'd like to see the work from the developers as well as city staff on the water supply issue, and including the 100-year plan. We want to make sure that we're not going to be hurting anybody in any way, shape, or form, whether it be the city or our wonderful homeowners. The other thing is and I don't remember who it was, and I apologize for that. I am concerned about the wild animals as well. So I want to find out how the developers plan on addressing that as well. We can't stop progress, but we can slow it down and make sure it's done right. And that's one of, I think, I know a lot of you are new to what we do, but we are very concerned, just so that I get that out there, of all of these issues that you guys have already addressed. Traffic, I think staff can attest to the fact that we drill them all the time on traffic. And that's, 6 to 4 to, even if it's the other way around, we need to have a good impact. And we understand that it's way early on that. So, but those are on our radar, just so that our developers know this and stuff. So, and I think council's in the same aspect as well. I don't want to harp on the flood plan, but, being in on myself, I want to make sure that we're taking care of that as well. So I think though you kind of heard what everybody's looking at, what everybody wants before we get to the next one. And I think we're just kind of beating a dead horse. I think you've had our messages.
Yes. Yep, you do.
I want to get, Dave, I didn't catch your last name. You talked about wildlife, the burrowing owls. What's your last name?
Right here.
Wait,
Dave,
we gotta go on.
would you spell that, please?
I got it right here.
ALINGENSMI.
Thank you.
You're awesome. All right, anything else, guys? All right, we're gonna go on to GPA 21-02. You guys want to hear that one too, or are we gonna have an exiting? No. That's why I'm bringing it up before I go to the next one, because you guys are gonna get bored and.
We go home and eat. Everything.
All right, guys, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, all of it. I got, oh, this is somewhere.
You're welcome.
Are you going to come to the next meeting?
So
It's going to be a follow-up. Good.
and to make sure.
All right, guys, we need to get going. GPA 21-02. Can I have quiet in the audience, please? All right, this is going to be a public hearing as well. Request by Norris Davis on behalf of Cali Companies to amend the general plan future use map for approximately 100 acres from existing commercial plus or minus 90 gross areas, OS open space to plus or minus 9 gross acres, and employment plus minus. Can we get that door shut, please? Thank you. Medium density residential for the future development of a residential community generally located in the southeast corner of Porter Road, Maricopa, Casa Grande Highway. Discussion only. Excuse me, can we ask for quiet in the audience, please? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. As Chair Huggins introduced, this is another major general plan amendment slated for this year, 21-02, request by Norris Design. This is a smaller area than the previous case. This is 100 acres roughly. It is currently designated with a mixture of land, future land use, including commercial, which is the majority, about 90 acres, so 90% roughly. A smaller snippet of open space, and then a small sliver of employment. And the GPA is to transfer and to redesignate the land use to a medium density residential. And it is a slated residential community with commercial, with a future master planned or PAD zoning that would probably be requested. This is at the southeast corner of Porter Road and Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. Next slide. General plan, as Rudy explained earlier, is the very first of the entitlement process. Step 2 annexation will not be necessary. This is obviously right in the center of Maricopa, so we will not be needing an annexation. The next step would indeed be step 3 rezone, pre-plat, final plat. Next slide. 3 different parcels for this one. Doesn't have an address yet. The existing zoning is general rural and smaller area of industrial zone. Like I said before, general plan land use is commercial, open space, and employment, and they would like to change it to medium density residential. Next slide. Site map here, as you can see, it's a little rough to walk over here. So Porter Road right here, Walmart right here. This is the Union Pacific Railroad that goes along here. Next slide, please. As you can see, currently the site on the left is a majority of commercial. I would also like to point out the small sliver of employment and then the open space on the portion of the property. You'll notice on the other side of Maricopa Casa Grande, we have the commercial in red, and we have a state land parcel that is currently in gray. However, as the state land sells that piece, it'll probably end up being a mixed use type of development. And then to the east of that is actually going to be another kind of mixed use area. So we have a request here to change the designation to MDR, which is on the right, which is that medium density. Next slide. This is just a quick rundown of what the existing land use commercial that's currently slated. I'm not going to read this whole thing. However, I think we know what commercial is meant for. So let's go to the next slide, please. Open space is intended for public recreation, resource conservation. It should be noted that if this is the development ends up being built, that they will actually end up with approximately the same amount of open space required as currently is designated by the general plan. Next slide. And the small sliver is employment. Next slide, please. Medium density residential is about 2 to 6 dwelling units per acre. So not a high density residential area, but medium. So it'll probably end up being kind of the same lot sizes and density that we're used to within the city. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through all of this again because this is basically an identical slide, but the purpose of the general plan is not to promote special interests. It's more to plan out the general area. It's a kind of a malleable plan in itself so that it can be molded with specific market needs, as in the case of this project. It is providing more housing in an area that otherwise is a little hard to access. So staff's opinion so far is going to be to support this, mainly because of the location and the surrounding residential that's actually planned and already existing in the direct vicinity of this area. Okay, next slide, please. So for this one, the main thing is anything over 40 acres that is designated from commercial to any sort of residential use, that automatically triggers a major general plan amendment. So that's why this is a major general plan amendment and not a minor, because of the size is over 40 acres. Next slide, please. We do have a conceptual land use plan at this time. It shows the primary access point would be off of, would align with Iron Point Road. It's currently there. Also note that the future commercial to the west is actually, there is a development that's being planned there. That is actually going to end up probably being residential as well. So you have residential to the west, you've got residential planned directly to the west. The school district site will remain. And then the conceptual land use plan here shows where the proposed subdivision would end up being. It has 2 points of access shown, with a third access point potentially off the east-west corridor to the south. In addition, the existing house that's on this parcel would remain. So this pretty large chunk of land there in the southwest corner would remain with the existing Kelly family. So the things we look at as staff when we formulate our recommendation, the goals and objectives, which is land use, circulation, is there adequate circulation access points, parks, recreation, open space aren't being compromised. Does it fit within the growth area and the growth plan for the city? Also on pages 7 to 14 in the Exhibit A, which is the narrative that was submitted, there is more detailed information, and also in the staff report about why this would be a good fit for this area. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting. They did advertise in the Maricopa Monitor and the Casa Grande Dispatch. Notification letters were sent out within 600 feet of subject property. The site was also posted with a sign. Neighborhood meeting was held. The state statute notice requirement, 60-day notice, was also met in preparation for this project. Next slide. With that said, it is staff's opinion that the amendment is consistent with our general plan. In that, any change is necessary to achieve the balance of land uses desired by the city, consistent with the general plan. The long-range housing inventory studies do show that additional housing is going to be necessary in the city, and we believe that this is a good location for that. The amendment will promote growth in the city in an orderly manner and protect the public health, safety, peace, comfort, and general welfare. I think that's one of the big cruxes, number 3, with this general plan amendment, is that it is a kind of a safe, secluded almost spot that's cut off by the railroad tracks to the north. It would be kind of a better suited place for medium-sized residential. As with the previous case, this is no action at this time. It's just the first of 2 public hearings in 2 different locations. We will present our formal recommendation at the next public hearing scheduled for next month. Questions at this time?
I'm going to hold off on the questions and open up the public hearing.
Okay.
Unless the applicant's here.
The applicant is here.
Did you want to say anything?
No, Byron did a great job, so I won't waste any of your guys' time.
All right. All right, well, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing. I have 1 speaker card, and we're going to open up the public hearing at 7:07. Tina Dugan.
Can we put the slide back up with the map while I talk?
Sure.
That one? Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair Huggins, Planning Commission members. I am Tina Dugan, and I did not receive notice or anything for this
Address,
because
please.
42097 West Arvada Court in Maricopa.
Thank you.
I did not receive notice because there's not a lot of people close to this that would have received notice. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things as you're considering this. I found out about it thanks to our local media. Ingress and egress, it shows 1 access point and then perhaps a second. And as I read, they stated, well, there will be a bridge over the wash. Tell that to the people in Santa Rosa Ranches who've been waiting all these years for that bridge that's not there when they get stuck between the train and the other. So again, we will have a subdivision landlocked if there's a train and a flood at the same time. And that never happens in Arizona, does it? Furthermore, as you heard in the first public hearing, one of the things, and I was around when the general plan was redone. I remember all of that. We had commercial areas and employment areas for a reason. And if we keep taking them out to put more houses in, we no longer have a place for those to go. And the thing that we lack in this city more than anything is a large employer. The school district and the city of Maricopa don't count. We need other employers here. And if we keep pushing the area for them to be away, this has railroad access. What better for commercial development than railroad access? And I just think that if we keep putting in more houses and we don't make the space for our employers that was already in our general plan, that's a problem. And I also think access for this until the bridge is built or something is done to give more 2 access points that both lead to nowhere when there's a train and a flood are not the answer to this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else would like to speak on this item? If not, we will close it at 7:10. Thank you. Questions? We'll start on this side this time. Commissioner Yocum.
Okay. In the applicant's discussion, he brings out the point that our general plan.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. In the applicant's discussion, he suggests that in the city's general plan, they strongly discourage residential building adjacent to airports or railroad corridors. We have in the applicant's presentation, it is suggested they'll provide a 150-foot wide landscape buffer between the railroad and the development. And I don't know if that's adequate or not. I'd like to see more discussion on that point.
Okay.
Okay? Let me get just a second. I'm also impressed with, in the staff report, it was suggested that higher density and more intense commercial and mixed use are not appropriate for this site, that medium density will assist bringing additional housing to the area site, and it's a logical extension of the development and will provide compatible use to existing and future proposed development. So it seems to me that this would dovetail with what we already have. But I also am concerned, as Tina suggested tonight, that if we keep depleting those areas that we're going to have for employment or commercial, eventually will we get to the point that we really can't accommodate those needs? And I think that's something we have to think about.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's all for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Irving.
No questions.
Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, just a comment or question. I too, and I've said before with other cases that have come before us, that this erosion of our commercial land development opportunities really does concern me. And so I don't know if it's appropriate to request or bring up now, but maybe just something to think about as a study or something. Is okay, do we have enough commercial land because of all the changes that we've made since the general plan was adopted till now? Is there, an interim step in there just to take a look at it? Yeah, so that's one question. I guess, in thinking though, like in the applicant and staff presented, having Eagle Shadows right next door to it that is residential, I can see both sides of it. That is a good case to have this as, medium density residential, and then across Porter Road as well. So the issue of the bridge, do you have an idea of when the bridge might be constructed? I know it's in design.
I'm going to let Rodolfo Lopez, Director, answer that one.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioners, is in design as we speak. We're expecting to start construction on the east-west corridor and the Porter Road Bridge over to Santa Rosa Wash starting in January. So I would have to expect at least a good year and a half or so before completion. But the construction of that bridge component will start in first of the year, 2022.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay, y'all are killing me here. I got a couple things. I'm going to piggyback off of what Commissioner Frank was saying. I'm a little bit, I like his idea, and I wanted to build off of that. And if we can, before the next commercial, before the next public hearing, find out where are we at in the way of commercial land availability on what we've done and what's coming out, what's going in and stuff like that. If we can get that answered, that would be great. The other thing that, and I'm going to beat on traffic again, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the first responder time. I brought this up the last time we had one of these developments. I'm going to bring it up again. I don't want to have to be the one that sat on the commission that approved this when I've got a first responder having to go all the way around and somebody doesn't make it because the first responder couldn't get there in time. So I'd like to have something in the report stating that the first responders, fire, and police have looked at this and that we make sure that there's enough response time. That's a big, big concern of mine. And what I'd also like to find out is what would be, in addition to finding out the amount of commercial land, where are we sitting in the way of industrial as well? Because we keep changing this, but I'm kind of now a little bit concerned. We're talking about employers. One of the bigger employers is the industrial corridor. So where are we at in that? I mean, commercial is one thing. The stores and stuff, unfortunately, the way that the world is working, the stores are becoming on lines anyways. But it's still the industrial that builds the stuff that we need. So where are we at on that is another thing that I'd like to look at to make sure that we're answering every bit of questions that we can for our constituents, because I think that's important. And I think I'm going to leave it right there for right now.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
All right, anything else, guys? All right, we're going to move on. 5.3 TXT 21-01 public hearing, a text amendment to the City of Maricopa zoning code. The proposed text amendment is a request to revise section 118.115.120, chapter C of the city code to state that political signs shall not be displayed in violation of ARS 16-019 as amended, may be amended from time to time. Discussion and action.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Corin Huber, Planner 2, City of Maricopa. So this text amendment to the Maricopa zoning code, the proposed text amendment is a request to revise the current section 118.115.120C of the city code to state that political signs shall not be displayed in violation of ARS 16-1019, as may be amended from time to time. Next slide. The city's zoning code was implemented in 2014 and is subject to periodic updates. As such, this is one in congruence with the current change in the Arizona revised statute. Next slide. So this is the current text in our city zoning code. A lot of it has to do with political signs that are of a temporary nature. The current code as it is written in a concrete way to apply to 60 days prior to the current election or zoning code process. This is planning on going from a constant number to the current number, which is 71. Next slide. But what we would like this part of the zoning text to state is that political signs shall not be displayed in violation of this statute, and that it may be amended from time to time, allowing the opportunity for it to update should the statute itself update. Next slide, please. So we did put this through a public comment process. Our current code states that the public needs to be made aware for a period of 15 days. As a result, on September 12th, staff placed information with the Casa Grande Dispatch as well as the Maricopa Monitor. As of my current speaking, I'm not aware of any public comment received by staff. Next slide. As such, staff recommends approval of TXT 2101 as it states. I'd like to open it up to questions at this time.
Well, I'd like to open the public hearing first.
All right, thank you.
Does this call for?
It is a public hearing. With that being said, at 7:19, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing section. Not everybody rush at one time. Oh, go right ahead.
Rich Fidiello, 44559 West Sedona Trail, Maricopa, Arizona. As you may know, I am a current city council member. If I remember correctly, from 2018, the state statute states that it's 90 days before to put political signs out. So that'd be my only question. That is 90 days opposed to 60 days. State statute trumps city statute. No pun intended by anybody. So, but it states that we can put our signs out 90 days prior. So I'd like to ask that question. So, thank you.
All righty. Anybody else for public hearing? If not, we will go ahead and close it at 7:20. Thank you. Start on this side. Commissioner Frank.
No comment.
Commissioner Irving.
Good question.
I'll answer that question. Commissioner Yocum?
I'm just looking at what we have now. When it comes to putting signs on state highways or routes or overpasses over state highways, so forth and so on, we see the signs all over the place during the campaigns. And I'm just wondering, what enforcement vehicle do we have? Because I don't see any of these signs taken down that shouldn't be there. So whatever we do, what's the enforcement leg of it?
I'd like to delegate the floor to Mr. Rudy Lopez.
What's wrong?
I just saw him coming.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, so when it comes to highway placement, I mean, technically, city staffs cannot regulate anything on state highways. So I know what's been done in past code enforcement is that we've informed the state, but it's up to the state to decide whether they're going to enforce that or not. But legally, the city cannot enforce political signs on state highway when it's a state right of way.
Well, I'm aware of that, but it just seems to me if we're going to have a statute that prohibits it and nobody enforces it, why do we have it at all?
You're asking the wrong person. We didn't write the code.
Preaching to the
state
choir there,
statute.
Ted.
It's a state statute.
Go to your state legislator.
So again, just to clarify, we're simply just amending the code to be exactly this, just basically referencing Arizona revised state statutes. Because we've done this twice already in the past 10 years where we've somewhat copied a code and it's changed, and we were forced to amend our zoning code to reflect the state statute. So in this third round, we're going to go ahead and just refer to the current state statute that's on the books today.
That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Well, can we go back to the one slide that shows what it's going to be amended to? It was one simple sentence. And while we're getting there, I'm just going to state you were right, but unfortunately the law was changed to 71-3. It was changed after 18. Yeah. Now it's 71 days before and 3 days after. Unless you win the general. Never mind. It's a long the law just changed again this year, which is what prompted this. And so my question is, and maybe the attorney can answer this question, is can we not state, instead of it saying as may be amended from time to time, can we not state to reflect the state statute instead of may from time to time? I know you don't have a mic, sorry, make you walk all the way up here. I just think it would be a lot easier instead of as may be amended from time to time for it to state that to mirror the state requirements.
Nick Cook, City Attorney's Office. Yeah, that's a reasonable change. We can, if you want to make, whoever makes a motion to just recommend that change, and we can make that change before it goes to council.
Okay, well, I'd like to make that motion. We go ahead and approve this amendment for it to state.
I'll second.
Well, how about if you let me state the motion first? For it to state, as stated, with the change from as may be amended from time to time, for it to state as determined by what the state laws are. However you guys want to pretty that up to.
Are you giving staff
Yes.
direction to do that? Okay.
Just for it to mirror the state laws. That way we don't, yes, that is the motion, so that we don't have to.
Discussion on it?
We will.
I thought that's what we were doing all along.
All right, so are you seconding that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, the only concern I would have is it limits the ability to amend to that one situation. The way it says now, you may amend it from time to time. Okay, if there's another, your motion would say the only time you can amend it is if it is dealing with the state statutes, right?
Right.
The way it's written now is you can amend it for that, or if something else out of the ordinary would come up. All I'm saying is your motion is limiting.
We have to mirror the state statute anyways.
I'm not arguing that, but I'm saying you can limit the state statute with that motion as written. It would also give latitude to amend it if something else did come up. That's all I'm saying.
But if something else came up, we would be mirroring it anyways.
No, you're missing the point.
You want to clarify that?
So maybe I can clarify, as we're reading this now, as may be amended from time to time, we're not referring to us amending our statute. We're referring to the state statute
Right.
as it changes. So as I'm reading this is if 16-1019 changes, our standards
Right.
just follow that.
Right.
And it's my understanding if our standard differs, the state statute trumps it.
Correct.
If it's different.
Anyway.
So
Correct.
Right.
Our code,
It's kind of a
would- our
redundancy.
code, well, our code
Right.
doesn't
It's gonna
change
trump it anyways.
automatically. We're just following that.
But doesn't this change give you the flexibility to change it whenever you want, not only if
Right.
the ARS changes? I think that's what
all
Commissioner
I'm
Irving is
saying.
saying.
But you can't change it against the state.
Yeah,
but you can't change
But
it
we could
against
go
the
back,
state
we could
statute.
go back to doing what we're doing now if we wanted to.
correct. If at any time, if we wanted to change, we could request another text amendment for this or for any different statute or any
Right.
different code provision.
But you can't change the state.
No, when we're not saying that, but I think
We're not
he's
saying
just
that.
trying to give us, maintain the
I'm just trying to give them
flexibility.
more flexibility. If you don't want to, that's fine.
Because it's tomato to me, but
What flexibility, I guess I'm just a little bit confused as to what flexibility there would be considering we have to mirror what the state says in the way the times of this
The way
science.
they wrote it. I'll try it one more time. If not, I'm done. As may be amended from time to time.
Right?
That includes everything and gives them a little more flexibility. That's all I'm saying. It does exactly what you want to do, but I think again, it's just a broader range from time. That's all. It's no biggie.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but if the state changes it again, do we have to amend it again?
No, if the state changes the statute, we do not have to make any amendments. We're referring to whatever change they have now or in the future.
But if we
Okay.
do as Jim is suggesting, what's the situation?
We're in the same situation.
Same
We're not, we would
situation.
not be coming
Okay,
back for
then I'm
another
fine with it.
amendment because we're just going
Yeah,
to
just leave it
reflect
alone.
whatever the state law currently.
Then I'm
is.
fine with it. I withdraw my motion, I'm fine with it. It
I'll
doesn't
withdraw
matter to
my
me
second.
anyway.
well, then can I move to approve as
Yeah.
written?
Yeah, second.
I just don't want to have to visit this
You're
train
not
again.
going to have to.
I want to jump off this train
I
because
have
I'm
to go to the
tired of
bathroom
political
because I'm
signs in
old.
the first place. All right, so there is a motion and a second to approve. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Any other questions? Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Jump off this train. Approved. Wow.
I'm in the caboose.
Huh? Don't make us have an e-session. No, I'm done with meetings for the day. Thank you very much. That's why I did this, because I didn't want to have another meeting. All right. Go ahead. Reports from commission and or staff.
There are none. No.
I know, right? There's gonna a text amendment
So
for,
just real quick, just upcoming meetings
he's got his
again.
calendar out, guys.
Again, October 11th, I may have an item. There may be just one
Okay.
item for October 11th, which is the next one scheduled. And then after that, it's October 25th, and that's when we come back for the general plan amendments.
That's the
Okay.
second
For
hearing
action,
for that. Okay.
Yep, October 25th, Monday, and I'll be back at City Hall.
Okay. City
So-
Hall for the 11th as well.
Yeah, October 11th for, yep, at
It'd be
City
City
Hall.
Hall.
But that is tentative. I would say 50%.
Okay.
Brittany will be saying out heads up next week on that, and we'll definitely confirm. Madam Chair, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, guys, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Wait, who did the second? I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay. I was gonna say, she's shaking her head. She didn't hear a second. So, all
I'll be
right.
right back. I just.
We got a motion and a second.
Guys,
Bye-bye.
It's tough being old. I'm sorry.
Yeah.